Mr. Sanjiv Bajaj now joins us to talk about what India Inc. and his sector expects from this year's budget. Mr. Bajaj, good morning. Thank you for joining us. I can assure you I would have loved to ask you a question on Bajaj Finance, but since you're joining us in the capacity of CII, I will restrict you to the sector. Now, what the COVID crisis has done, Mr. Bajaj, it has divided the economy into two. The topmost, which have got more, and their saving rates have become higher, and the bottom of the pyramid people which have lost because of jobs and because of other factors. What do you think this budget can do to equalize and protect the MSCs and SMEs?
Morning, Nikunj, and as you said, you did that other interview anyway a few months ago. What we at CI hope is to see a balance for lives, for livelihood, and for growth, and over a 3-year window so that we can go from recovery to solid growth on these parameters. We have seen the government already focus on the recovery mode, whether it's for people at the lowest, the bottom of the pyramid with the food support, the money support, some of them that will require to continue. Lives should move to the next stage now with significant investment on the healthcare side. I would even put education with that because in many ways that improves the quality of lives. Livelihood is about jobs, and there is so much promise over here from Atmanirbhar India to Make in India, the PLI schemes. We need to work hand in hand with the government and see how do we now take these great ideas into execution starting right away. And I hope the budget addresses that. And if we can get this right, then there is no reason why we should not go back to consistent growth, because the importance is not just growth for the coming year, that's almost a given. The important focus is going to be how do you continue that growth going into FY23 and beyond.
Mr. Bajaj, what is your understanding of how things are shaping up? We are going through a touchwood, a huge comeback in the economy. Now, how does one understand that this economic recovery is sustainable, it is real, and this is something which will sustain?
I would say here the first thing, Nikunj, and you yourself talked about that, is we need to make sure now that this pandemic is behind us. We have stayed away from a second large wave. We can't afford for that to happen. We know what that has done for other economies in the Western world. So yes, the vaccine rollout, the distribution of that so that it reaches everybody as fast as possible. This is important so that no additional variant gets the chance to grow exponentially. If that happens, then we are seeing most sections of business coming back to quite close to normalcy. And with the continued focus of the government, at times when the private sector still is not able to invest, but is coming now to a stage where capacities are being reached, the government has to chip in for some time, and infrastructure support can be such a big move. It's something that took us through the last decade, I would say the decade before the last now, of the 2000s, and there is no reason why it should not take us ahead over there. There are a few segments still. We know the informal economy got hurt really bad. We know that SMEs and MSMEs got a lot of support to stay afloat from the government, but will need more support to go back into growth mode. And certain large sectors of industry have got hurt, the obvious ones. These need clinical support again from the government, but everything else is growing in the right direction. And I can tell you, when we are looking in, even in Bajaj Finance at our loan book, the quality is coming back. It is looking better than what it looked 6 months ago.
Talk about your sector, Mr. Bajaj. It's a sector where chop and churn has happened. Big players have become large and large players have become mega. The smaller NBFCs are suffering. Some of them have got liability problem, some of them have got an asset problem, some of them have got both. Now, if you're representing CII, and if you have to, let's say, give a recommendation that how can the smaller players in the NBFC space be protected and how can they be restarted again, what should one do?
So there are a few fundamental issues over here. What immediately RBI did last year was opened a liquidity window for NBFCs, and this was done only the second time in I think 15 or 20 years. So that was to take care of any urgent requirements. We now basically have to see credit coming back into the system because the smaller NBFCs by and large raise their money from banks. Now, the challenge that we have is that our large public sector banks, which have really held various portions of the economy over periods of time, are hurting right now. And that's where this thought of multiple bad banks comes out so that you take that bad cholesterol outside of their system, put in some capital, allow them to lend to extend credit again. This is important for it to get started. And then as CI, as we are saying, other than a few strategic PSBs that the government would want to hold a majority stake in, the rest, make your intention clear that you will go 50. The market will open up for them. These will professionalize in coming years so that you don't have the same situation coming up again. On the private side, you can see private banks and even large NBFCs, including our own, are incrementally lending more. So they're doing their bit. But we need all of them to work together in unison.
Mr. Bajaj Finance was an NBFC, but it is on course to become a fintech company. But not NBFC, every NBFC company is becoming a fintech company. There is innovation happening in the fintech world. The challenge is that in India, the innovation in the fintech world or the startup world is getting funded only by PE investors, and when they need capital, they are going outside the shores of India. Do you think a lot of retooling and relook needs to be done about the laws and startup and the listing norms there, because that's one space which needs constant capital?
Here, Nikunj, what is important is that traditionally in the last 10 years, when we talk of fintech companies, these are startups, very innovative, which have made some, I would say, leeway in the financial services world, but mainly by leveraging technology. So while fintech has become the common word, they are more tech fin companies, and that is why they don't have too many skills, experience on the financial services side, say on the lending side or on the insurance side. Most of them end up being distributors. If you see whether it's the payment banks, whether it's some of the web aggregators, they're mainly distributors. The opportunity that we see for some of the large banks or NBFCs like Bajaj Finance is that some of us can truly be fintech, that is born as a finance business, but leveraging technology today, which is imperative in this digital era, but providing that experience to customers for at least a large part of our products and services, where you can minimize human interaction, where you can leverage technology, algos, data to provide intelligent, interesting solutions. So that's where Bajaj Finance is coming from. But yes, you do need a set of rules to manage those companies that are born purely as tech or that are doing, I would say, discrete activities in the financial services chain rather than the whole activities. But you have to always keep in mind that a lot of this innovation comes when the regulation is light. And that's why what RBI has also suggested now for large NBFCs, the staging by size and the additional supervision is pragmatic, so that when you're small, you stay flexible, lighter regulations, innovate. That's how we really build our future. But as you get larger, you have to get more responsible.
Will CII welcome a COVID cess if it is implemented? I'm putting words in your mouth, I know that, but I'm a journalist. My job is to get a reaction about a buzz.
I'm not clear. When you say welcome a COVID test, for what purpose?
COVID cess for healthcare funding. If there's a COVID cess on super rich or a corporate surcharge in form of COVID cess, will you welcome it?
As CI, we believe that what the government has done with taxes in the last couple of years, we must stay consistent with that and not unnecessarily tweak that, including adding to it. We saw last month's numbers on GST, Nikunj, 1.2 lakh crore. Numbers are growing. We need some patience rather than tweaking this all the time. Instead, there is a flip side to it, that the government owes a lot of money in delayed
Tell her to ask
payments
two questions.
to businesses. Yeah. So owes a lot of this money to businesses. There are tax refunds that are due. If the government just pays that out, that itself will create another demand boost. So we would hope that happens and we stay steady with taxes.
Good morning, Mr. Sanjiv Bajaj. This is Nayantara Rai. My one question to you is that, according to you, what would be a good budget? What would get a thumbs up from you as far as this union budget goes?
Morning, Nayantara. I would say three things. One is continued support to certain sections of industry. Second is clear executable plans on infrastructure, health, education, which will provide us that fillip for growth over the coming years. It will bring our fiscal deficit down to manageable numbers. And third is a clear intent to cleaning up, stabilizing the banks through raising capital in public sector banks and uh, introducing the bad bank as a focus area to clean up the existing bad loans in public sector banks. And the government must seriously think of a development financial institution which will help us with long-term infrastructure projects. If we see these announcements, I think a combination of this takes us from recovery to growth, ensuring lives, livelihood, and growth all over the next coming years.
Mr. Bajaj, because you've mentioned a lot of things that will get a thumbs up as far as financial services go, multiple bad banks, etc. There is a strong buzz that, will budget 2021 increase the FDI cap for insurance to 74%. It is seen as a politically difficult decision to take, but there is another view that this is the time and you do need the capital, etc. Are you expecting an FDI cap hike?
Well, as at CII, we are waiting to see what all gets announced. We've always felt that we must attract capital from all over the world, have a consistent set of rules over here. At the same time, strategic businesses need to stay under eventual control over here. Now, I'm personally biased, given that I'm in this industry. So we'll wait and watch to see what comes out today, and then maybe we can talk about it.